This is Alex Cuniglio, and I've with me here Tim Bell,
Hello.
and we are known as the Socratic Seminar. And today on the Socratic Seminar, we're going to be addressing Plato's allegory of the cave. Um, Here in this podcast, we'd like to think of a time when we found ourselves enlightened, brought as it were from darkness to light. We'll talk about that experience in light of Plato's allegory, actually. We'll consider the nature of our return to the previously unenlightened landscape that you had left behind as well. So, Tim, what are your feelings? What do you think? Do you have a time in your life where you found yourself enlightened?
Well, before I elaborate on that, it's a great read. The allegory of the cave it's very good. I really enjoyed the points it made. Now, one thing in comparison I can make with my life in general, it's my transition from middle school to high school. Middle school being the cave, high school being the new open world that these prisoners are exposed to. Now, when I first went to high school, it was very, very different. I went to our little middle school Catholic, 300 people, not that many, to this huge community of over like 1,000 people. Different classes, more expectations. You're expected to do much more as an individual.
Would you say, much like the people mentioned in Plato's allegory of the cave, that you were either blinded or possibly feeling pain from this new world filled with light?
When I first started out, I would say that I was.
What exactly induced this pain?
It was just like, it was an overload of information of sorts. I couldn't take it. It was overwhelming. I desperately wanted to go back to middle school where it's so easy. You're just told to do this, do that. This teacher explains it in detail, so you don't have to do anything special. But here, we're expected to do things on our own. And it was just too much for my young mind to comprehend at the time.
So let's say in a hypothetical sense, you were able to go back from high school to middle school. So how would you feel, since you've seen the light that was high school, but now you're back in middle school, back in the reality, I guess,
Well, after seeing high school for 3 years, I kind of understand why the prisoners want to go back to the cave. They weren't accustomed to this new reality they've seen. They want to go back to what they know. But after being exposed to this light, in a sense, for 3 years, I now understand what true reality is in a way. Now, going back to middle school, I know what it is. I knew to expect, but I live a different life now. I no longer need middle school like I was when I was a freshman.
So I'd say you resemble the leader in the group, represented in Plato's allegory of the cave, where he doesn't want to live the same life in the cave. He wants to go out and see the new world and the light. More of an enthusiastic viewpoint. So before we continue with this topic discussion, let's give a little summary of the allegory of the cave. First off, Socrates is talking to a friend of his, and they're having a philosophical discussion.
Yep.
And this allegory of the cave starts off with Socrates telling his friend, what if we had a bunch of prisoners who have never seen light for the first time in a cave? And a fire was lit up, and during their time in the cave, the only things they would see besides each other is the light itself and these shadows cast aside by a man behind a wall with puppets. So seemingly, these shadows would represent figures like other people, or possibly giant beasts, or objects of the world. But considering these things are really just puppets and fake, that it's all scripted, meaning these people would perceive what's on the wall as their reality. However, it really wasn't, because there was a whole nother world outside. Then these people would be released into the big real world, and they would suffer. They wouldn't know what to do.
Now, when they're out there, first off, before they were put outside, the person that released them and showed them what was behind them, which was the elevated pathway and the fire. They were obviously frightened to see this at first, wanting to go back to their little wall to see their shadows. Then that man would then force them to go outside to see the light of day. And once they saw the green and the sun, they would have the same reaction. They were desperate to go back in the cave. But as they were out there for a extended period of time, they started to see what true reality was. And then Socrates posed the question, if they had the choice, would they go back to the cave? And that's when his friend said they most certainly would. So back in the cave, back at their little wall with their chains in the shadows, Socrates then posed the question again, would they kill the person that forced them to leave? And his friend said they most certainly would.
So essentially, even after being shown that their entire perceived reality was indeed not real, they would still go back to the cave and even kill to stay in that cave.
Exactly.
In my own personal experiences, a time where I found I was enlightened, I guess, brought from darkness to light, was just the general process of growing up, really. So, you start off as a kid in your life, start off as a baby, but you're not really thinking. So you start off as a young kid, and throughout your life, you're just kind of going through the motions. You're doing what your parents tell you to do, usually simple commands, your workload's not too hard. Maybe for a kid it feels hard, but in all reality, you don't have too much responsibilities in your life at that point. However, then, maybe about a month ago, or even really last year, I started to realize in my life that I had a lot more responsibilities than when I was a kid. Obviously, as you grow up, you have more to do. Things become more serious, more important to you, and your life's just overall not as carefree. Was my own kind of coming from darkness into light, as I realized at this point that as I grow up, I'm only going to have more responsibilities. Therefore, I figured I could really just enjoy my life. But if I did have a chance to go back to the time where I had no responsibility, I would probably at first be pretty welcome to the fact. But then, after seeing the light that is the outside and realizing that the life I lived before isn't the same as I guess it really is, just like Plato's allegory of the cave, I would probably be more accustomed to wanting to live the newer life, the more life with more responsibilities. Because if you just keep doing the same thing your whole life, I feel like you'll live a life where you're pretty much just unfulfilled. You don't have much to worry about. Then again, you don't have much to accomplish. I think that's a sad truth about the allegory of the cave. Overall, a very good read, though. Very useful. So, all in all, we are the Socratic Seminar, and we'll be discussing a new topic on dank memes next week. I'm Alex Cuniglio.
I'll give you all the coverage of the dank memes every week. See you next time.
And we are signing off. Goodbye.